Have you ever truly wondered what really happens behind the thick, ancient, and history-soaked stone walls of the most exclusive royal residences on this planet, deep within the heart of London, far from the prying eyes of the ordinary public and the relentless gaze of the modern media? For decades and perhaps centuries, the British monarchy has carefully cultivated an image of meticulous duty, seemingly unending service, and immense personal sacrifice, creating an almost mythical aura that often masks the deeply complex, sometimes bewildering, and frequently startling realities that shape their exceedingly private and privileged everyday lives. It is a world where ancient traditions intersect with the complexities of contemporary life, where appearances are curated with extreme precision, and where the line between what is seen and what is true can often be significantly, if not completely, blurred into a fascinating yet frustrating obscurity. While we, the admiring public, often see only the glittering surface of state banquets, significant public engagements, and historical ceremonies, there are intricate, sometimes very opaque systems, structures, and deep-seated traditions operating quietly in the background, shaping not only the public image but also the private, often heavily guarded circumstances of each and every individual family member, no matter how peripheral their role might initially seem in the grand and complicated royal hierarchy. This creates an environment rife with intrigue and unanswered questions. It is a magnificent facade that is increasingly being tested, scrutinized, and questioned by both the press and the public alike, as the demands for modern transparency, particularly in the complicated realm of royal finances and privilege, grow progressively louder, more persistent, and undeniably more challenging to simply dismiss as mere unimportant noise. The public's desire to understand exactly what occurs away from the cameras and the headlines has never been greater, nor has it been more pertinent given the changing social and economic landscape, adding layers of profound intrigue to an institution already steeped in mystery, history, and profound societal, if not global, impact. This intricate interplay between the public's perception and the guarded reality is precisely what we aim to unravel in this very comprehensive report, providing context, backstory, and significant insight into the dynamic that defines the modern British royal family. Before we embark on this deep dive into these fascinating, crucial, and often surprising details that are rapidly coming to light, we would quickly, yet sincerely, like to ask that if you are deeply passionate about following every single royal development, understanding the historical implications of current events, and discovering the hidden narratives that often escape the headlines, please consider taking a moment to subscribe to our dedicated news channel right now, hitting that notification bell as well to ensure that you never ever miss a single update in this unfolding, increasingly complex story. Now, moving forward in our narrative with increasing detail, the quiet and historically predictable landscape of royal affairs in the United Kingdom, specifically concerning the fascinating lives of Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, the daughters of Prince Andrew, Duke of York and Sarah Ferguson, was quite unexpectedly yet drastically shifted earlier this today, sending substantial widespread shockwaves reverberating through not just the intricate halls of power within the palaces themselves, but also across the entire national and global media landscape. For decades, the public has grown accustomed to seeing these princesses at various official events. Understanding their unique and often somewhat ambiguous position within the modern monarchy as technically non-working royals, who nevertheless maintain an exceedingly close connection to the institutional core and the inner workings of the royal family dynamic. Their public appearances, though perhaps less frequent than their high-profile cousins, have consistently projected an image of stable, accepted, and relatively conventional royal life, free from significant controversy or overwhelming scrutiny beyond the usual social interest. However, behind this carefully maintained, seemingly unremarkable facade, a significant narrative has been quietly developing over many years, a narrative deeply intertwined with complex financial arrangements and long-standing royal privileges that are only now being exposed to the intense, and perhaps overdue, light of public scrutiny and accountability. The quiet nature of their official roles has often shielded the more intricate, potentially problematic details of their lives, providing a comfortable obscurity that has now been profoundly disrupted in a very public and undeniably impactful way, raising profound and necessary questions about the very nature of their privileges. For many years, vague whispers and subtle speculation have circulated within royal and journalistic circles regarding the seemingly substantial and seemingly effortless material comfort and privilege enjoyed by the sisters Beatrice and Eugenie, particularly concerning their choice of highly desirable and historically significant residential accommodations in the absolute prime and incredibly expensive heart of central London. These were not simply rumours, but consistent undertones that suggested a situation potentially out of step with modern expectations and standards, yet they were often overlooked or dismissed amid the constant stream of higher-profile royal news, events, and occasional dramas. Today, that entire dynamic has changed forever with the sudden, surprising, and very official release of a groundbreaking and undeniably bombshell report from the UK's respected National Audit Office. This meticulously researched and highly anticipated report, though initially expected to be routine, has delivered a comprehensive and undeniably definitive blow to any assumptions of standard procedures, officially confirming what many critics, observers, and skeptical commentators had long suspected and quietly discussed for many years, but lacked the definitive proof to loudly declare. This authoritative report does not just present statistics or generalized findings. It provides a direct, unflinching, and comprehensive insight into the long-term residential and financial arrangements for the York princesses, laying bare a system that appears, in the eyes of many, to be fundamentally at odds with the transparency, fairness, and economic reality expected of such a prominent institution and its representatives in a modern democratic society. The revelation presented in this extensive official document states quite clearly, without any ambiguity or room for misunderstanding, that Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have essentially lived what can only be described as a completely rent-free existence for more than 20 years within some of the country's most historically significant and sought-after royal properties in prime central London. Properties that the ordinary person could only ever dream of even briefly visiting, let alone calling home for decades without ever paying a single penny in rent, creating a sense of profound shock and understandable outrage in equal measure across the length and breadth of the entire country. To fully comprehend the sheer scale and the deep financial tension of this unfolding revelation, one must look directly at the precise historical and economic details laid bare in this groundbreaking National Audit Office report, which has fundamentally challenged the public's understanding of modern royal privilege. The official documentation reveals that this extraordinary arrangement traced back to when Princess Beatrice was around 19 years old, a pivotal moment when she was officially granted a spacious, highly coveted four-bedroom apartment nestled securely within the historic and heavily guarded grounds of Kensington Palace. For a significant period, her younger sister, Princess Eugenie, lived alongside her in this magnificent central London residence, establishing a lavish base of operations that served as their primary urban home. As the years progressed and public awareness surrounding royal expenditures intensified, a quiet shift allegedly occurred behind the scenes, with reports circulating that the sisters were finally being instructed to pay a proper, formalized rent for their prestigious accommodation to align them with modern standards of financial accountability. However, the comprehensive and unyielding data within the newly published audit firmly demonstrates that, despite any internal directives or public perceptions to the contrary, neither Princess Beatrice nor Princess Eugenie ever actually paid a single penny out of their own private pockets for this incredibly valuable real estate. Instead, the report officially confirms that their substantial rent has been consistently, quietly, and entirely covered by the privy purse, which functions effectively as the monarch's private income stream, heavily derived from the historic and highly lucrative Duchy of Lancaster. This revelation has instantly transformed what was once viewed as a simple family favor into a matter of intense national debate and institutional tension, shedding light on an opaque, circular financial system that outsiders view as nothing less than a highly exclusive, deeply protected royal slush. This elaborate mechanism allows the extended family to maintain an incredibly lavish fairy tale lifestyle, completely insulated from the severe economic pressures, rising inflation, and profound financial hardships currently being experienced by tens of millions of ordinary taxpayers across the entire United Kingdom. This staggering disparity has fueled a powerful wave of public resentment as everyday citizens face an increasingly harsh climate, while peripheral, non-working members of the royal family continue to enjoy immense taxpayer-adjacent benefits without ever providing any clear, tangible, or measurable public service in return. The tension is further exacerbated when examining the sheer financial logic of how these rental rates were calculated in the first place, revealing an almost farcical lack of true commercial transparency that has left independent financial experts and journalists completely stunned. According to the audit findings, the rent for these palace properties was initially established at an artificial rate that sat wildly below the actual commercial market value of prime central London real estate, appearing to hover around a mere 50 to 60% of true open market worth. Analysts have noted that these figures seem to have been completely plucked out of thin air by compliance officers and palace flunkies who simply decided that a massive discount was appropriate for the king's nieces. With the rate creeping up to 60% in 2022 and only recently being recalculated in this current year of 2026 to 68% of the open market rent. Yet, as critics pointed out, the entire concept of market rent for a historic four-bedroom home inside a heavily fortified royal palace is a complete nonsense in itself, given that such unique properties can never truly be tested on the open commercial market, making any official valuation inherently arbitrary and deeply biased toward protecting the family's immense wealth. When royal defenders argue that this is simply a matter of a highly generous, incredibly wealthy uncle in King Charles, choosing to support his extended family out of his own private resources, they completely ignore the massive, structural tax advantages that make this wealth possible in the first place. Unlike every ordinary citizen in the United Kingdom who must face devastating inheritance taxes and death duties ranging between 30 and 40% when passing wealth down to the next generation, the Duchy of Lancaster and the wider royal estate are completely exempt from these taxes, allowing vast fortunes to accumulate and circulate entirely untouched by government levies. Furthermore, many of these prestigious properties are technically owned by the Crown Estate, a massive public body that is legally supposed to operate for the broader economic benefit of the entire nation and the government. This raises a deeply uncomfortable question as to why a public entity is willingly accepting vastly below-market rents from two adult women who have never worked for the monarchy a single day in their lives, who hold no official constitutional roles, and who both happen to be married to highly successful, remarkably wealthy husbands. The outrage cutting through the British public stems from the unmistakable sense of absolute, unparalleled entitlement that runs through this branch of the family like lettering through a stick of rock, reinforcing the long-standing perception that the Yorks operate entirely as opportunists and freeloaders who have spent their entire adult lives taking everything they can from the state while giving absolutely nothing back. The tension behind palace walls has reached such an unprecedented high that senior royal sources have leaked extraordinary details regarding how the core monarchy views this situation, with Prince William reportedly telling close friends in absolute confidence that he increasingly views the York branch as functioning almost like a mini crime family. A shocking and deeply severe assessment that highlights the profound ideological rift currently tearing the family apart. This sentiment is highly reflective of the classic proverb that the apple never falls far from the crooked tree, as both princesses were quite clearly raised by their controversial father, Prince Andrew. To believe that this level of extreme luxury, immunity from normal rules, and unearned material privilege was completely appropriate and inherently owed to them by virtue of their birth. While both Beatrice and Eugenie technically hold contemporary corporate jobs, observers note that these roles are largely symbolic, paying salaries that would barely cover the baseline costs of living in London for an ordinary person. Yet they are constantly seen travelling in immense style and luxury to the Middle East and exclusive European destinations to secure wealthy corporate clients who are primarily interested in gaining proximity to their historic royal titles. The sheer awkwardness of this situation is heightened by the fact that their father, who is the sole reason they possess these powerful titles, has been systematically stripped of his own official roles and public standing, leaving the princesses in a highly precarious, deeply contradictory social position. As public anger intensifies, prominent voices are loudly demanding that these vast palace apartments be reclaimed and repurposed for the actual people of the United Kingdom, suggesting they be transformed into affordable dormitories for visiting members of Parliament to save taxpayer funds, or converted into public museums and hotels, with all proceeds directly ring-fenced to support Prince William's national homelessness initiatives, an idea that would signal a true shift toward modern accountability. Instead of embracing transparency, however, the current royal establishment appears to be engaging in a deeply cynical, highly orchestrated effort to push all the blame backward onto the memory of the late Queen Elizabeth II, claiming that these deeply controversial rent deals were entirely negotiated under her lengthy reign. This narrative is being widely rejected by critics who point out that for the final decade of the Queen's life, King Charles was effectively functioning as a co-monarch, with all major financial decisions being heavily funneled through the Privy Purse under the direct control of Sir Michael Stevens, a fiercely loyal ally whom Charles actively chose to retain in his post after ascending the throne. This clear historical reality makes any attempt to pretend that the current king had no knowledge or influence over these deeply flawed financial arrangements look absolutely ridiculous, revealing an ongoing institutional unwillingness to truly draw a line in the sand, take absolute responsibility, and establish a fresh, lean, and genuinely transparent tone for the future of the British monarchy. This underlying crisis of institutional integrity and unearned privilege deepens significantly when one analyzes the contrasting paths Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have chosen to navigate in their public lives, against the backdrop of their family's historic controversies. While Princess Eugenie has increasingly retreated into a quieter, highly curated lifestyle, presenting herself via social media as a dedicated Earth Mother, and focusing on her growing family, Princess Beatrice has taken a vastly different, highly visible, an intensely controversial approach that has left media commentators and royal insiders absolutely stunned. Just as this highly damaging National Audit Office report was preparing to land and dominate the national headlines, Princess Beatrice was exclusively spotted flaunting her extreme wealth in the absolute playground of the international elite, partying heavily at the ultra-exclusive Club 55 on the sun-drenched beaches of Saint-Tropez. This was not a low-profile vacation, it was a loud, defiant display of unapologetic celebrity lifestyle, with Beatrice openly hanging out and socializing with high-profile media figures, including the famously controversial broadcaster Piers Morgan. An extraordinary move that has sent shockwaves through the royal family's delicate social network. This public alliance is seen by many as a massive, calculated insult and a deliberate discourtesy to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, with whom the York sisters had historically maintained a very close, highly supportive relationship in direct opposition to the stance of Prince William and Princess Catherine. Furthermore, given Beatrice's historical role as the primary financial and media go-between for her mother, Sarah Ferguson, this high-profile meeting has fueled intense, widespread rumours that she is actively negotiating a massive, explosive television comeback. Interview for the Duchess of York with Morgan, a high-stakes media gamble that royal experts warn could turn into an unmitigated disaster, mirroring the catastrophic judgment Beatrice displayed when she infamously helped arrange her father's devastating BBC Newsnight interview years ago. The timing of this defiant public behavior could not be more dramatic, as the entire extended royal family is currently converging on a highly sensitive, deeply tense event this very weekend: the highly anticipated wedding of Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son, to his partner Harriet Spurling. This private family gathering has instantly transformed into a major constitutional minefield, with intense speculation mounting that Prince William has firmly put his foot down, absolutely refusing to attend or be photographed at the same event as Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, following the shocking financial revelations of the past 48 hours. While King Charles has reportedly arranged a highly complex schedule to attend only the formal church service, while completely skipping the lavish reception by claiming he must urgently attend the Epsom Derby horse race, the deep internal rifts are completely unmissable, placing the entire family in an incredibly awkward, deeply divided position that completely overshadows what should be a joyful celebration. This explosive social tension directly collides with the darkest, most disturbing element of this entire royal saga: the sudden, deeply bizarre re-emergence of Prince Andrew himself, driving around the royal Sandringham estate with his face completely, heavily bruised and battered, looking as though he had suffered a severe, violent physical trauma. The absolute mystery surrounding these shocking photographs has triggered an absolute frenzy of wild rumors and intense speculation across the United Kingdom, with conflicting theories circulating that the disgraced Duke either attempted to take his own life in a fit of despair, fell over in a state of severe intoxication, or was physically assaulted by a disgruntled business associate, much like a previous incident 5 years ago when he reportedly received a black eye from a highly frustrated foreign entrepreneur. Palace officials have desperately attempted to dismiss the horrific bruising as a non-serious, mundane medical situation, but seasoned royal watchers firmly believe this is a highly conscious, deeply cynical ploy for public sympathy, a desperate attempt by Andrew to project an image of a suffering, broken old man in order to distract the public from the highly damaging finding in the audit report, revealing that he had been secretly, illegally running a highly lucrative subletting operation out of his royal lodge estate, charging his own underpaid estate staff exorbitant commercial rents to live in adjacent cottages up until April of this very year. This shocking revelation of venality and exploitation has sickened the British public, drawing intense comparisons to archaic systems of feudal serfdom, where vulnerable employees are forced to return their meagre peppercorn salaries directly to their rapacious royal employer, just for the basic privilege of having a roof over their heads. Independent financial analysts have pointed out that while other members of the family, such as Prince Edward, have also engaged in commercial subletting by renting out the historic stable blocks at his massive Bagshot Park estate for £160,000 a year. Edward maintains a deep reservoir of public goodwill because he and his wife Sophie function as tireless, hard-working working royals who pour those funds directly back into the massive architectural upkeep of the historic property. Whereas Prince Andrew and his immediate daughters have spent decades actively taking millions from the state while contributing absolutely nothing of value in return. The overarching, inescapable reality of this profound institutional scandal is that Prince Andrew is highly unlikely to ever face proper, meaningful criminal justice or accountability in a public court of law, simply because the British government and the senior leadership of the monarchy are absolutely terrified of the devastating legal discovery process, knowing entirely that a full, unrestricted investigation into the York family's opaque finances and murky international dealings would completely destroy the entire institution of the constitutional monarchy overnight. Instead, the disgraced Duke remains trapped in a state of permanent internal exile, a heavily guarded form of house arrest on the remote edges of the Sandringham estate, while senior officials actively prepare to permanently exile him overseas to the Middle East, the absolute moment the ongoing police investigations are officially wrapped up, allowing him to live out his remaining days completely hidden from the public eye in a region where paparazzi are illegal and extreme royal luxury can be enjoyed without any modern democratic oversight or ethical accountability. As the curtains firmly come down on this extraordinary, deeply revealing chapter of British royal history, the ultimate message echoing out to the public is one of profound systemic entitlement and a deep historical resistance to true financial transparency, leaving the future king, Prince William, with the monumental, incredibly difficult task of eventually stripping these peripheral family members of their remaining titles and lavish accommodations if the modern monarchy ever hopes to survive and regain the trust of the British people.